Finally, some good news for car buyers. The market is basically back to normal. Dealers have a good supply of both new and used vehicles, and that's pushing down prices. According to Kelley Blue Book, the average new car buyer in March paid $47,000. That's a two-year low, but still nearly 16% higher than in March of 2021. With more cars on the lot, some dealers and manufacturers are offering bigger incentives. But because Toyota, Lexus, Honda, Land Rover, and Kia dealers are a little understocked right now, you're not as likely to get a deal from them, KBB says. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, a contributing editor at Checkbook.org.
Welcome to Consumerpedia at Checkbook.org. We're the nonprofit that helps consumers select services, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on Checkbook.org to be completely independent and objective. Now, here's the host of Consumerpedia, America's consumer expert, the Consumer Man, Herb Weisbaum.
In this episode, the latest reliability ratings from Consumer Reports, the right way to take a test drive, how to get the best deal on that new car, and should you consider using Costco's auto buying program. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get going. Up first, my good friend Mike Quincy, who helped me buy my last car. Mike is an auto writer and auto tester with Consumer Reports Autos.
How's it going today?
So let's talk about the sticker shock of how much it costs to buy a new car. Do we really need to pay $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 or more to get a good set of wheels?
Absolutely not. I think that's the best news about Consumer Reports' top picks is we have a number of models that are priced around $30,000 or less. So you definitely don't have to spend an arm and a leg to get a good car that's reliable, fuel efficient, and in some cases, even a lot of fun to drive.
Give us a few examples of ones you have in mind and the price point we're talking about.
The Subaru Crosstrek, for example, which starts about $25,000. It's reliable, it's comfortable, has lots of safety features. If you really want to go the extra mile for extra fuel economy, we highly recommend the Toyota Prius and Prius Prime. And the regular Prius is sort of the hybrid model that we've been knowing and loving for over 20 years now. But the Prime version is the plug-in hybrid, which gets you about 39 miles of all-electric range, and then it converts to a regular hybrid. So these are super reliable. They're fun to drive, believe it or not. Toyota put a lot of enthusiasm into this redesign, and deservedly one of Consumer Reports' top picks.
So after housing, buying and maintaining a car is the biggest expense for most Americans. So buying a reliable vehicle is a really smart way to reduce the cost of owning that vehicle, which is why CR publishes the annual Auto Reliability Report. This year's ratings based on responses from 330,000 members for model years 2000 to 2023, with a few early 2024 vehicles thrown in the mix. Based on all this data, it's really clear to me, looking at this, as it has been in the past, that there's a great difference between brand to brand as far as how reliable their vehicles are.
No question. And sort of on the same idea that you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a good car, you also don't have to spend a lot of money to get a reliable car. For example, the brands that are in Consumer Reports' top 10 most reliable brands include Toyota, Honda, Subaru, and Mazda and Kia. So these are not high-end brands. Now, on the other hand, Lexus is the most reliable brand. You're definitely paying a lot for that. But on the other end of the spectrum, the brands that wound up the lowest in reliability, some of them include Mercedes-Benz, Rivian, Volvo, Lincoln, Audi. These are some of the more expensive brands, so you don't always get what you pay for.
Again, this year, the Asian automakers seem to top the list, right?
Absolutely. And, one of the little surprises, and I do mean little figuratively, is Mini Cooper, which is owned by BMW, which also made the top 10. BMW came in number 9, but Mini Cooper came in at number 3, and that's a pretty strong showing. Now, granted, their product line is a lot smaller than most of the other brands that are in the top 10, but BMW is clearly putting some time and energy into improving the reliability of their models.
Mike, looking at how the brands stack up, with number 1 being Lexus, 79 out of 100 points, and number 30 being Chrysler with only 18 out of 100 points, the first domestic manufacturer to make the list is Buick at number 12. What is the problem American manufacturers continue to have with making reliable vehicles?
The executives in Detroit don't seem to be able to figure out or unlock the keys to regularly, consistently good reliability. They have moments where they kind of break through. And interestingly enough, throughout the years, Buick has usually been among the best domestic automakers. They don't have a huge product line, and a lot of the designs that they have been around for a while. So the company has figured out how to work out the bugs. But, you got to hand it to General Motors for always finding a way to have Buick really come out on top if you're looking to get a vehicle from Detroit.
So you gave us some of the best. Can you give us some of the worst?
Oh, sure. I mean, as we mentioned before, some of the more expensive brands are kind of bringing up the bottom. But there's also mainstream brands like Volkswagen, which came in 27th out of 30 brands. GMC, which is supposed to be the upscale version of basic Chevrolet trucks, they came in 24th. Lincoln isn't much above that at 23rd. Ford ranks in at 22 overall. So a lot of the lower ranked brands are definitely coming from Detroit and also coming from brands that extract a lot of money from their customers.
A lot of people want the newest and flashiest models. I understand that, but I know we've spoken before, and your surveys consistently show that when it comes to reliability, vehicles that have been around for a while tend to need fewer repairs.
Oh, you're 100% right. In fact, the vehicle that is most reliable in Consumer Reports Reliability Survey is the Toyota 4Runner. And this is a design that's been around for, maybe 15 years. It's just about to come out with a new one. But it certainly shows that if you pick a design that's been around a while, the manufacturers work the bugs out. The advice here is don't be an early adopter. One of the hot electric vehicles is a company called Rivian, and they are ranked really, really low for reliability. It's because they are a relatively new company. They're not used to mass production. So instead of being the first person on your block to get the latest and greatest vehicle, why don't you wait a year or two for the bugs to be worked out?
So as part of your annual survey, you ask members about the cost of repairs and maintenance, and American models did the best, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is also kind of some of the good news if you're rooting for the home team. Models from Buick and Lincoln and Ford and Chevrolet did really well for relatively low out-of-pocket cost of maintenance once the warranty and the free maintenance period is over. But it maybe the most surprising brand on this list is Tesla, which also is an American brand. Most of the time, electric cars don't have lots of moving parts. There's no oil changes to deal with. And Tesla's entire product line is electric. So that's one of the reasons that Tesla has the lowest cost of ownership and maintenance compared to the rest of the automotive world.
Is there a way to figure out before you buy the vehicle how much it's going to cost me more or less in maintenance? Is there a place you can go to get that information?
Well, you could definitely go to consumerreports.org and look up our latest automotive survey that includes out-of-pocket expenses for brands. One of the reasons that you buy a car like an Accord or a Camry or a Civic or something like that is the replacement tire costs will be a lot less than if you buy replacement tires for an Audi, a BMW, a Mercedes, or a Porsche. Not only do the European brands come with a high sticker price, but the amount of money it costs for parts replacements, for tire replacement, and a lot of these vehicles, when it comes to oil changes, require synthetic oil. So if you go in to get your oil changed in your Porsche, you might have to fork over a ton of money for some Mobil 1. So that's also in kind of the buying decision process.
Mike, it is always a pleasure talking to you. You're loaded with so much information. Mike Quincy, he's an auto writer and tester at Consumer Reports Autos. Take care, my friend, and drive safely.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about things you need to know when you head to the dealership and some of the tricks the salesperson may play on you. I'm Herb Weisbaum, and this is Consumerpedia, powered by Checkbook.org.
If you like what you hear, we hope you'll consider being a Consumerpedia supporter by using the link at the bottom of the show notes to make a small contribution each month. This is Consumerpedia.
If you haven't shopped for a car in a while, you're going to be amazed at the choices, all the different models, all the different trim lines, the engine options, and all the new safety features, not to mention the gee-whiz bells and whistles. Consumer Reports says there are now more than 260 models to choose from, so you really need to do some serious homework to decide which ones might be right for you and your budget. Here to help with that, Keith Berry, a veteran auto reporter at Consumer Reports.
Hey, Herb. Thanks for having me here.
What should we be doing? There are things we should be doing even before we head to the showroom. We need to do some homework.
Absolutely. I think some of the most important things to look at are safety systems. You should look to see which safety systems are included in a new vehicle. And some manufacturers do a really great job putting things standard across all of the trims. Even the base models, even the least expensive cars come with blind spot warning. Most cars come with AEB, most new cars. But if you're buying a used car, or if you're buying from a brand that isn't that nice, you're going to want to actually take a look and make sure that the car that you're buying has the safety features that you want. And we hear all the time from our members that safety features are important to them. Things like that blind spot warning, things like automatic emergency braking. Don't just take the salesperson's word for it. Those features have to be listed on the window sticker. And if it's not on the window sticker, it's not on the car.
And just to emphasize that point, because I bought a car a couple of years ago, and it was a Toyota Camry, which you guys highly recommended, the hybrid. The different trim lines had different safety features, and I could look in the guide and see what it was. Then I made sure it was on the sticker, but I wanted everything, so I had to go with a higher model, but I got what I wanted. You may not get all that with a lower level trim line.
Exactly. 2025, Toyota's put blind spot warning across the board for the Camry, but if you're looking at a used one, absolutely. The two cars might look identical, but it might not have that feature.
Keith, many of us feel really comfortable these days buying things sight unseen on the internet, clothing, big screen TV sets, laptops. But when it comes to a car, you really do need to test drive it. You can't just buy by looking at something and reading the specs or even the reviews from Consumer Reports. You've got to get behind the wheel and check it out.
Yeah, we hear all the time when we talk about the cars that we buy for our test program, we'll have conversations. Oh, I hate driving that because it cuts into my leg, or I can't see the speedometer the way that I sit, or I can't see the dashboard right, or something's just out of reach, or it's uncomfortable. And then another person who also as a coworker will say, oh, yeah, I love that car. It's so comfortable. It's the best driving position. So absolutely, you're going to want to spend some time with it. Something, as vehicles get bigger and bigger and bigger, we're hearing sometimes some folks are finding the cars don't fit in their garages. And you have to actually measure the car and make sure it fits. So absolutely spend some time with a vehicle. Even if you're, buying from one of those newer startup brands that you can order online, go to their showroom and spend some time with a car.
And don't just sit in the car, drive the car the way you would drive it, where you would drive it.
Yeah. And we say, bring your phone. That's so important. Bring your phone. Find out how easy it is to pair your phone with a car. Take your time. Even if the salesperson's, looking at his watch, you're the one who's spending tens of thousands of dollars on this car. So spend some time with a vehicle to find out how easy it is to use. Another thing is if you got kids, bring the car seat with you. If you have a mobility issue, show up with anything that you need to bring to the vehicle and see how comfortable it is for you, if it's easy for you to get in and out, all of those things with a vehicle.
To emphasize that point, when we bought that Toyota Camry, it was between the Camry and the Avalon. Drove both, and my wife said it's got shorter legs than I do. I can't see over the dashboard. We went with the Camry because she felt much more comfortable with that. She could see, it was a different design, and I could see what she was talking about. She never would have noticed that without driving the vehicle and seeing that there was a problem seeing over the hood.
My parents had the exact opposite, and they ended up with an Avalon. It's so individual. It's so absolutely individual.
Obviously, your parents have long legs.
Yeah.
In recent years, CR reviews have focused a lot on the difficulty of using some of the controls, especially the navigation system. It sounds like it'd be a really good idea to get the salesperson to explain all the bells and whistles on the dashboard, how they work, and see how easy it is to use all those navigation controls.
Definitely. If there's something that's specifically important to you, especially on newer cars, if there's a CD that you love to listen to, a newer car might not have a CD player. If you enjoy listening to AM radio, a lot of new cars don't have AM radio tuners. So these are some things to keep in mind. Also, if you don't like the way the navigation works, or if you don't like the way some of the systems work in the car, the nice thing is that most cars these days will allow you to let your phone take over. So that's that Apple CarPlay, that's that Android Auto. And we find when we ask about satisfaction with people who own cars, people tend to have a little higher satisfaction with those than with the built-in systems. But, don't freak out if you can't figure out the car immediately. Some of these do have a little bit of learning curve. And, we know at CR, we're hopping from car to car to car. And sometimes it takes a little longer than a day or an hour or a few minutes to figure out a vehicle. So, sit there, try it out, but spend a little time with it, because increasingly that's what's differentiating cars is the controls, the software, the interior of the vehicle.
Two things that I would suggest while you're taking a test drive is number one, find out about the lane assist. Some give you a little beep, some jerk the wheel, and that might be disconcerting to you. And the other one would be, and I don't know what it's called, but some cars get better mileage by they shut off when you come to a traffic light and start on again. If you haven't bought a car in a while, that's really disconcerting to some people.
Yeah, the auto start stop. Some of those allow you to turn it off. Some require you to turn it off every time you get into the vehicle. That's one nice thing now these days about hybrids is that they shut off and you don't notice it. You don't hear the ignition turning and cranking and the car starting up. So that's actually a benefit of a hybrid vehicle these days. But absolutely, that's something to keep in mind.
And the lane assist is different with different manufacturers.
Entirely. That is something we test at Consumer Reports, and you can read that in the road tests. We have a whole new test track where we test these specific features. And even within the same brand, we find that there's variation from vehicle to vehicle. Will it nudge you in your lane? Will it basically steer for you? Or is it going to ping pong you back and forth? Is it going to yell at you? Is it only going to intervene if something's about to go wrong? And depending upon what you like, sometimes some cars allow you to change how that's set up. And that's great, to be able to change those things. But other cars, it is the way it is. So definitely try that out. You can read all about it, but it isn't until you experience it yourself that you really get that sense of whether or not it's going to work for you. So narrow it down by reading and learning about it and watching the videos, etc. But you really have to go in there and see.
So buying a car is never a fun experience, even if you think you're a fabulous negotiator or a consumer reporter with a lot of experience. I've been quoted as saying I'd rather have root canal than go buy a car. Even if you've done it before, even if you think you're doing it great, you always wonder what tricks the salesperson is going to use on you. What kind of things should we be watching out for, Keith?
The first thing you should look out for is that kind of lowball offer, because car dealerships want to get you in the door. That's the most important thing that they can do is get you there, because if you're there, then they can kind of work their tricks on you. So when we buy cars at CR, we always start by email, and we think you should do the same thing. Email the dealership, ask them for, say, I'm interested in this car. What's your best out the door price? And can you itemize it? Show exactly, what I'm going to be paying, what extra taxes, fees, whatever. Itemize those and give me what that number is, because I'm going to come in with a check for that number. And that'll give you a sense of whether the dealer is serious. If they respond and say, I can't do that, come in, or can I have your phone number? They're trying to get their foot in the door and to get you in the door. So absolutely start that conversation. And if you see a price that seems too good to be true, there's a chance that it might be, that they're going to try and make that up on the back end by adding accessories or kind of getting you to strong-arming you into a warranty, or even increasing the interest rate. And they can do that. They can increase the interest rate that they're offering you and keep the difference. So absolutely, they're going to make some money. As a car dealer who I knew once said, when he bought a car, he'd say, listen, I want you to make some money, but not a lot and not off of me.
That's good. Checkbook always advises don't let the dealer get you to say how much you have to spend or how much you can afford for that monthly payment. Could you explain to everybody why?
Yeah, that's negotiating 101. You let the other person set the floor and the ceiling of the negotiation. Once dealers have that information, once the salesperson, if they're good, if they have that information, they'll try to build a deal around those numbers. And they'll try and say, if you say, hey, I have $30,000 to spend, they might say, well, okay, we have some good cars in the 32, 33 range, and just try and just push you a little bit everywhere they can. And if you push a lot of times, that's a lot of profit. So absolutely keep that to yourself. Ask what's the best they can do, but keep your sort of bottom line number to yourself. And the monthly payment too, it can hide a lot of sins with a monthly payment. You really want to negotiate on the actual price of the vehicle, because of the monthly payment, they can change how long the loan is. They can add things into the cost of the vehicle. They can change, again, the interest rate. You want to negotiate every individual part of that. And what I like to do is have my phone open with an interest rate calculator. There's a great one, actually. I like one that the Dallas Fed has, one that's real easy. It works on your phone. And you can just punch in those numbers and double check, okay, if this is the interest rate, if this is the price, what your monthly payment's going to be. There's a lot of numbers moving around. I've had dealerships make honest mistakes, and I've had dealerships make some dishonest mistakes. But you want to be checking that math the whole time.
So after investing hours and hours at the dealership and you're in there with a finance person, they give you this paperwork and you just tend to put your initials wherever they need to be. You really need to check that final paperwork. The FTC is warned that they'll sneak a lot of things on there. Sometimes they had cases where people were charged for oil changes for electric vehicles that don't have an oil change. You just can't willy-nilly sign on the dotted line. You got to see what you're signing.
Yeah, and a couple of dollars here and there over the course of a 60, 72-month car loan, that adds up to a lot. I think that's important advice in general. Slow down. Take any opportunity you can to slow down. I know that, it's a long process. It takes hours. It's painful. You have people who want to move things along. You want to get out of there. No one wants to be the dealers don't even want to be there. Mm-hmm. They want to be home with their families.
Spending all that money they just made on you.
Exactly. So slow it down. If anything feels like it's moving too fast, just take a breath. Say, I gotta step outside. I gotta take a phone call. Just have something in mind to say, I have a hard stop at this time. Take a break, come back. Don't get worn out.
That's why I will never buy a car alone. I always have someone there who's not emotionally involved as you become during the process. I want that blue whatever, and can say to you, whoa, time out. We got to go outside and talk about this for a minute. Somebody's playing games with you here.
I think that's great advice. I haven't heard that one myself, but I think that's great advice. Anything that's sort of something to slow down the process, take a breath, because it isn't the end of the world. I mean, I know that we're all absolutely in a rush, but take that breath and it could save you hundreds or thousands of dollars on a vehicle. And salespeople they're counting on you to get caught up in the sort of emotion and the timing and being worn down, to let your guard down and spend more than you want to.
And bottom line, if you don't feel comfortable, it's your money, it's your decision. Walk out the door, because if you sign the contract, you can't go off the lot and then come back 24 hours later and say, sorry, I don't like this car, take it back. It's yours. Walk out the door if you don't feel comfortable.
That is absolutely true. There's always going to be another car. There's always going to be another dealership. And, you're in the ultimate power position when you are buying a car, because they need you to buy that car from them more than you need to buy that car from them.
Keith Berry is a senior auto reporter with Consumer Reports. He has written a bunch of articles about shopping for a car. You'll find them all listed, links in the show notes for this podcast. Keith, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you, and drive safe.
So maybe you want some help buying that new car. Services like TrueCar promise to help make the process quick and easy by letting you get offers from multiple dealerships. Checkbook cautions that most of these companies don't deliver good deals. We'll have more on that with executive editor Kevin Brassler straight ahead, plus his take on Costco's auto buying program. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, and this is Consumerpedia, powered by Checkbook.org.
Consumerpedia Fast Facts. Each year, Consumer Reports names the best cars of the year based on road test performance, predicted reliability, owner satisfaction, and safety. Here are the editor's top 10 picks for 2024. Subcompact SUV, Subaru Crosstrek. Compact SUV, Subaru Forester. Midsize SUV, Toyota Highlander Hybrid. Luxury SUV, BMW X5 and BMW X5 Plug-in Hybrid. Plug-in Hybrid SUV, Toyota RAV4 Prime. Small car, Mazda 3. Midsize car, Toyota Camry Hybrid. Electric vehicle, Tesla Model Y. Hybrid and plug-in hybrid, Toyota Prius and Prius Prime. And small pickup, Ford Maverick and Maverick Hybrid.
Buying a car is a complicated transaction. You'll find detailed instructions on how to get the best deal when you buy or lease a car on Checkbook.org. Those stories were written by Checkbook's executive editor, Kevin Brassler, who joins us now.
Hello, Herb.
So some people want to skip all the hassles involved with buying a car themselves, so they turn to one of a number of websites that claim to make the process quick and simple. But as you warn, buyers need to tread carefully.
Yeah, there are lots of websites out there that claim to provide buyers with easy-to-obtain offers from multiple dealerships. They'll say, obtain upfront pricing about this car you're interested in. But we find that most of those websites don't deliver good deals at all. Instead, really what they do is they just sell your info as a sales lead to dealerships. And then you just get inundated with calls and emails and texts from salespeople who are eager to put you through the usual kind of, hard sell and negotiations ringer. So TrueCar is a good example of this. It promises to provide low upfront vehicle pricing, and it partners with lots of big companies like Allstate and American Express and Geico, and even some consumer groups like AARP and Consumer Reports. TrueCar makes most of its money by collecting a fee from dealers. Every time a dealer closes a sale and TrueCar helped facilitate that sale, it has to pay TrueCar its cut. So TrueCar, its real clients are dealerships, not car buyers, not consumers, even though consumers are often led to TrueCar from consumer groups, from insurance companies that are promising to help their members or customers obtain good deals. We find really that TrueCar doesn't usually serve up the best pricing. When we got competitive bidding for lots of different cars over many years and compared to what the best price we could get from TrueCar, we often found that we could save $1,500 or more than what we could get on our own. And in some cases, we found that the best prices we could get through competitive bidding were more than $3,000 less than what we could get through TrueCar. Really, the big issue with TrueCar and most other sites like it is that they offer horrid buying experiences. I mean, I have it several times in the last 10 years requested pricing from TrueCar. And, I was just immediately swamped with dozens of calls and texts and emails. The last time I did this, even after 6 months, I was still getting emails and texts. And none of these salespeople sent me detailed pricing up front in advance, which is what TrueCar says it will do. I mean, it is really a joke.
As we spoke earlier in the podcast, the only way to get the best possible price on a new vehicle is by collecting competitive bids. But for those who want to save time and avoid the hassles of haggling, Costco offers a way to get a lower than average price, and you did a deep dive into Costco's auto buying program. You called it well conceived and well managed, and I've used it and I was very happy with it.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying once again, the best way to get the lowest possible price is to initiate this competitive bidding process. I mean, you have to be persistent, but it works. But if you just can't deal with that, and I completely understand why, I think Costco is a decent alternative. What it does is it offers a car pricing service as a free member benefit. It's no haggle pricing. And when we've tested it, we found it provided better than usual pricing. It's not as good as getting bids, but it's still pretty good. What Costco does to make sure its members are paying, well below market rates, it conducts price surveys of dealerships that analyzes transaction and inventory data, and it shops for the best deals. It has its own secret shoppers that go in and negotiate with dealers and see what the pricing they can obtain on their own, how that compares to the commitments Costco's asking its dealerships to make. What it does is it asks dealerships in various geographical areas to commit to a price that Costco thinks is a good one for that specific year, make, and model of car. It will send you the participating dealer in its network, in its area near you, to the dealer that has agreed to hold that lower pricing that Costco has set. It also sometimes works out members-only discounts with manufacturers. So, for example, Audi or Volvo, they might offer Costco members a rebate of $1,000 or something like that. If you identify yourself as coming in as a Costco member, it's something you have to ask for. It comes right off the top of the sale. It's not something you have to negotiate with the dealer.
One drawback to Costco's program is it doesn't offer special pricing on every make and model. You got to remember that. And just because you use the program, you're still doing all the final paperwork and all the wheeling and dealing at the end, except for price, with the dealership. And I had an experience once where they tried to play some tricks on me. You got to be careful. You got to read the paperwork. You got to know what you're getting. Just because you're going through Costco does not guarantee this is going to be a satisfactory purchase.
Yeah. And just as if you were getting bids, you really have to make sure they don't pull a switcheroo on you, right? That they don't try to, send you toward a more expensive car, or pay less for the trade-in than what your car is really worth, or try to set you up with some weird financing offer, or try to sneak in a lease, which is what we often hear that a lot of dealerships try to do. Another thing is Costco, it doesn't necessarily have every make and model in its database. It doesn't have Teslas, for example, because Tesla follows a retail model. And it doesn't have other cars because, they may be in high demand or just can't get dealers in your area to commit to a certain price. The other thing Costco does is if it can't find a dealer in that area to commit to its price, what Costco has decided is a good price, then it just doesn't list the car. And it also doesn't list cars if you can't get a dealer to charge MSRP or less. I mean, it knows at that point, look, if we can't get a dealer to even stick to the manufacturer's suggested pricing, we know we really can't supply our members with good advanced pricing.
Well, important information, Kevin, as always, and we're going to let you ease on down the road.
Thank you.
We have a lot of information about buying a car, auto insurance, and auto mechanics on checkbook.org. You'll find the links listed in the show notes. Well, that's it for this edition of Consumerpedia. We hope you'll rate the podcast and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember, we release new episodes every other Thursday. Here's another way you can support this show. Follow us on Consumerpedia at Facebook and Instagram, and at My Consumerpedia on X, formerly Twitter. I'm Herb Weisbaum. Thank you for listening.
Consumerpedia is a public service of Checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that helps you save money and make smarter choices. You can count on Checkbook to help you find the best services and avoid the worst, with local ratings that are accurate and unbiased. If you live in or around these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Seattle, San Francisco, Minneapolis-St. Paul, and Washington, D.C. To get your free 30-day subscription, go to checkbook.org/consumerpedia. If you like what you've heard, we hope you'll become a supporter by using the link at the bottom of the show notes to make a small contribution each month. Consumerpedia, empowering consumers to save money and make smarter choices.